I don't plan things. They just pop in my head. And Nico, actually, what first came was the town. Well, we took a vacation, and from Siena to Florence, we town hopped. And I fell in love with the town. And I said to my husband, I want to write a mystery here. And I always lived in a city, so I knew nothing about living in a town. I was just enchanted, covered in vineyards. It is the heart of the Chianti is the heart of wine country. And so we went, the next year we went back, and I spent a month there. And because I just wanted to write about this, for me, magical place. Nico just popped in, and I all my characters only pop in. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but because I needed someone to tell the story. I wanted to see it from an outsider's point of view, because that's who I am. I'm the outsider, even though I am Italian. Therefore, I have an advantage over Nico. And I thought, because it's going to be a mystery, why not make him a detective, but who has retired, was forced to retire because he did something naughty. And he buried a wife. He had married an Italian-American wife who wanted to be buried where her parents had been buried. And so he ended up in this small town, Gravigna. And since he didn't have friends anymore, because the police didn't want to have anything to do with him, he moved, and he had a cousin who, his wife's cousin lived there, and she ran a restaurant. And so he decided to help because it was family. And all of a sudden, he's now become a rather good cook. That, in fact, I finally added some recipes at the end of the books, because some fans said, no, please give us the recipes. After all, when you think of Italy, you do think of food. It is one of the, apart from the fabulous art, you do think of food. So that's how it happened. In The Bitter Taste of Murder, it's the owners of the cafe, the bar, All'Angolo, where he goes. They're a gay couple, and they're involved. And then, of course, even from the first one, my favorite character, it may not be the readers, is Gogol, this old man who had been bullied, and he's a Dante fanatic, and he quotes Dante. Now, Dante is the Shakespeare of Italy, the Divine Comedy. I don't know, maybe a lot of Americans don't know about the Divine Comedy, but so he quotes appropriate quotes. And that is the first friendship that Nico makes, because his wife was also a great, passionate lover of Dante and would quote him. And so here he finds this old man, and so they settled in. And so the bar becomes, every morning they meet, and that becomes sort of the center, the beginning of the day for Nico and for Gogol. And then, of course, the guys, I call them the guys, that Jimmy and Sancho, who are the owners. And that's sort of the center of town. The bar is always in a small town, the center. Everybody comes in, they have their cup of coffee, they chit-chat, and off they go. And then, of course, the Maresciallo Perillo, who is a grumpy Neapolitan, and he has a brigadier, I guess in English, Daniele, who is Venetian and rather shy and blushes. And I liked juxtaposing the Neapolitan with the Tuscan, with the Venetian. It was fun. That's it. It could be with any other, even any other work relationship, where all of a sudden you have the same goal, and you have to try to get along. And they do get along. They I think, formed a very strong friendship, with Perillo being rather impossible sometimes, also worrying about aging. And again, it's the process of being there and finding out how they feel, what they're going to do about it. And it's like, I feel like sometimes like I'm the therapist listening in on what they're trying to do and what they're trying to establish as a murder mystery, in the sense of finding out who it is, but also their relationship. There, and also very important is that Brigadier Daniele. So in fact, someone says that they are like those three musketeers, one for all and all for one. Um, and it's just, to me, very heartwarming, this friendship that they have. Now, I have to confess that I didn't know anything about Italian law, what happens. So I made friendship with a maresciallo who is not Neapolitan, he's Sardinian, in fact, Giovanni, who was very good in helping me what you could do, what you couldn't do. And I think that some of that relationship that I developed with this wonderful man, who unfortunately now is retired, may have gone onto the page, that relationship between them. You know, Nico knows in a way much more than the Maresciallo does. So that the Maresciallo has had maybe in his career one murder between a fight of two drunken Albanians. There are a lot of Albanians in Chianti. They found work when they ran away from the war. A lot of migrants. And just, you know, again, I'm writing my last book where I'm trying to settle all these characters. I think it is going to be my last book. And I just want to make sure that these friends that I have established are okay. They have become my friends, and I go back to them. And it's as, you know, every year I do go back to this town that I use as my Gravina, and I have made friends there, and it has enhanced my writing because I'm writing from the heart. And one of the most important things about this series, my previous mysteries were reflecting my having come to the States in 1980 and starting over. And I gave that to my amateur sleuth, an Italian woman who starts life over. The wonderful thing about this Tuscan series, and I think the happiness shows, is that I am talking about a country that I love and that I had to leave for various personal reasons. I didn't have to, but I chose to because I thought it would be the best thing. And so I think I bring that love into being, and being there, and I hope it shows my sense of place, of just enjoying just the smell of things and the beauty. Someone, when they said I was writing Murder in Pitigliano, said, "Oh no, you have to change the title. No one will buy something they can't pronounce." He walks into the bar. The scene starts in the bar, the breakfast with Gogol, and a little girl that he's never seen before comes and talks to his dog, the stray dog that he picked up in Murder in Chianti. And she leaves a little note because she has discovered through a friend that he is a detective, or was once a detective. And she says, "Please help my father," in the note. And he finds out that this little girl, I forgot how old she is, and 7 or 8, and her mother have moved to Gravina from Pitigliano because her husband ran away accused of having murdered his partner in an electronics store. And so the mother finds out he is a detective and asks and hires him. And he goes off to a town he's never been to. It's a 2-hour drive. Actually, it's a little bit more than that. Every day he goes to try to find. She gives him a list of suspects, and he tries to find. And he discovers another world. Now, Pitigliano is an incredible, founded by the Etruscans, medieval town. There's also the new part, which is nothing to write about. But the old town is just incredibly beautiful. And he goes through these maze of streets, stone streets, and discovers people, and slowly but surely puts it together, what it is. And everyone recognizes him as the American detective because of his dog, because he always goes, wherever he goes with someone. The dog is called One Wag, although the Italians have a tough time pronouncing One Wag. And so they call him Rocco. The dog has 2 names, and he's an important part of the story. And it's tough on Nico because he's alone. He's used to, sitting down and chit-chatting and saying, "Well, what do you think? You think this guy, this, that?" Um, but he does ask, he does get some help from Daniele, because Daniele is a computer expert and goes and finds things when that Perillo, the computer for Perillo, is an unknown entity. So they make a good couple. And so he does manage to find the solution. He does not charge the woman, refuses to. And I think I just loved being there. Of course, I had to go there. What fascinated me about Pitigliano, why Pitigliano? Because I was going through a guidebook, I think, and I discovered this town called Pitigliano, which is at the very southern end of Tuscany. It's right next to Campania, the Rome place, not Campania, Lazio, Camila. I'm getting confused. So it's also called Little Jerusalem. And I said, oh, in the middle of a medieval town, Little Jerusalem. Now the Jews, as a lot of people know, got not well treated. The popes, various popes, kicked them out of Rome, kicked them out of the papal states. And there was one wise governor, the Orsini family, who said, no, come here, you're welcome. And so they did come, small. Now there are about maybe 3 people left that are Jewish, but there's a synagogue that they have. And I wanted to write about that because I found it fascinating. And I was happy to have discovered someone who had welcomed the Jewish people in Italy way back in those days. And of course, once the Orsini were overrun by the Medici put them in a ghetto, but they were still there. And so now the main character in the story is Deborah, a woman of, I think she's 93, who is an ex-therapist who is Jewish. And so she explains to Nico the story, and she knows a lot. She knows the man who ran away. And right now it's my favorite book because, of course, it would be my favorite book because I just wrote it. My next favorite book is the first one because that's where I discovered these wonderful people that I don't take credit for them. I really don't. They just came, maybe from all the other people that I have met during my life. I can't pinpoint and say, oh no, that's Jake. I think sometimes Nico might reflect a little my husband's story in his calm. And he's a wise guy. He doesn't go off. I like Perillo gets angry. No, Nico thinks things through, as does my husband. So I was not aware that I was doing that. But when someone asked, I thought about it and I said, yes, there are elements of my husband and Nico. Murder comes to Gravina being the town. Now the book started, Murder in Chianti, there was a murder in Gravina. And so the last book also goes back to having another murder. And the difficulty with this one for Nico is that he knows for the first time in his life, even through all his career as a homicide detective, he never encountered a murdered person that he knew. And this time he knows this man. He's the butcher of the town. And he has great difficulty dealing. He absorbs it and he sort of becomes a little obsessed and sort of selfish about it. And his girlfriend, because he's now found a girlfriend, says, wait a minute, we're all suffering. We're all mourning this man that we knew. Now, you're not the only one. In fact, in a way, he's the new guy. So whereas they've had Sergio in their life since they were children, and Sergio is the butcher's name. So he has some difficulties, but things are going well with his girlfriend because there have been in the third book, they broke up. At first he felt he had difficulty allowing himself to care for someone else after his wife's death to cancer. And in this one, interesting things will happen to various characters, good things, because I want to leave them that I know they're going to be okay. Because I may not go back. I mean, I'll know I'll go back to Gravina my town is Gravina always, because I love it there now. But I needed to rest. I needed to pay attention to my husband, and I'm not getting any younger. And so I thought, yes, now it's time. It's time to. And so, of course, he will succeed. There will be some sadness, because there will be some parting of characters, but also some very good things. Even the parting of characters is for the positive. So I'm enjoying writing about that.